Welcome to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. Here's your host, Morgan Colby and Rick Lemon.
What's cracking, Fantasy Champs? Welcome back to the pod. We got a Thursday night preview on this show. We're going to talk about some Thursday night football. Should be interesting. Should be fun. As our Thursday night preview shows are always, Rick is back for this one.
Yes, sir.
And he's going to actually give a prediction for this game live. Now, who did you pick last week?
Pick the Lions.
I picked the Lions as well. So we're 2-2. And you're 4-0.
I am 4-0. I don't know how that happened, but
This game's going to be mid and a half.
we're really into the NFL season, man.
Yeah, when you get
week 5,
get this Thursday night football game,
we're getting crap Thursday night games.
Yes, sir. So yeah, we're gonna break down this Thursday night football game. Talk about any players that might be startable, might not be startable, and give you some fantasy advice on that, and then we'll make our predictions and send you off to the Great Barrier Reef. Is the wild of fantasy football for you to go improve your teams. We also got 2 more episodes this week, so be on the lookout for those. Before we jump into this episode, check it out at fantasychampions.com. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or any other podcasting platforms, please leave a review and share this pod with your friends. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe. Click the bell for notifications, like, and comment down below any questions you have for us about this game in particular. The game, in case you were wondering, you're like, whoa, well, what is the actual game? It's Bears at Commanders. So if you wanted a giant bag of suck, you got your giant bag of suck. Al Michaels is dying inside.
This game is going to make him age even faster.
Yeah. More than he already has. He literally came back for money. This
is like the classic game, Commanders Bears, Thursday night football.
Yeah.
That everybody's like, why is this on national TV?
And then
this game sucks. But for the fantasy people like us, I'm still interested in watching the game.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it'll probably end up being an okay game.
It probably will.
And we'll be like, whoa,
hopefully,
that was better than
fingers crossed.
Either that or it's going to be like 3-5, and we're going to wonder what that scormage was.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
But yeah, so the Bears play they're at the Commanders in this game. The over-under is 44.5. I would probably take the under on this one.
Was it 44.5?
Yeah, it's low though.
I'm taking the over.
I'm taking the under. I'll take the under. I'll do the opposite of Rick for no particular reason.
We count that towards our
no
betting.
But yeah, so the main reason why we bring up over and unders, by the way, in case you're here for the first time, is over unders, is because it kind of gives you an idea of what Vegas thinks the score of the game is going to be, at least in a close vicinity. So there will be points scored in this game, and if that is the case, you know, there should be some good fantasy options. If it's like 35, we're talking probably about 2 teams that can't score for nobody. Like who are the 2 worst scoring teams in the league? Jets, Patriots, Thursday night football. If that ever happens, we would get like a 35 point over under. Solid 3-10 game.
Am I mistaken, or did these 2 teams literally play last year on Thursday night football?
I don't know. You're probably right though.
I think they did.
Feels like it. It feels like you're right. Did they?
I feel like it was. I mean, it was a bad game, but it was a good game. It was like a good bad game.
It was a good bad game. All right, let's talk about some of these teams. We'll start with the Bears because they is on the road, going to Washington. And we'll start with the quarterback position. Justin Fields, baby. Had a good week this week. We talked about his good game on Tuesday's show. He has been, he had a really good game this week. What are your expectations for Justin Fields going into this game?
I'm expecting to start him. I'm expecting that he has a top 12 performance and that he's good enough to start. It is a Thursday game, which scares me. The Commanders have a good pass rush, which scares me.
Mm-hmm.
But their secondary is Swiss cheese.
Yes, sir. Reminds me
So
of
there's an
something.
opportunity there. If the Bears are able to game plan well, which is, the
That's
odds aren't
hard.
in their
Yeah, the
favor with
odds are in their
that.
favor on that one.
But there is opportunity there for them to score. I think Fields found something last week a little bit in the passing game. I think it could carry over. I'm not expecting a huge week, but I'm expecting a good enough week fantasy-wise for him to be a decent start.
Yeah, Washington's given up so far through weeks
A
1
lot.
through 4. They've given up 18.5 points to the quarterback position, which makes them a
Oh, I guess
top
that's not.
9 easy matchup.
Oh
Yeah.
no, so it is a lot.
Yeah, so it is a lot. It's not as much as the worst, which is 25, the Denver Broncos.
They have
but-
played what? Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, and who else have they played?
I don't know.
Oh, they did play Josh Dobbs.
I think Allen went off against them. But,
Allen went off against them. Hurts went off
yeah,
against them.
I mean,
this
like
week.
Rick said, the Swiss cheese scenario for this defense is going to be interesting for Justin Fields. But it's just it's like a matter of like they lost badly in the last game on Sunday. It was like they had a big lead. They were about to beat Denver. Denver came back. They ended up winning the game. The Denver Broncos did, and the Bears choked badly, and Justin Fields choked badly. So does that ding his confidence, or are they going into this game feeling confident? Like, okay, we finally got some things going offensively. I don't
Right.
know, but if you drafted Fields to be a top guy, and he finally gave you some good fantasy production, go
He has
down
a decent
with the
matchup.
freaking ship.
Yeah.
Decent matchup. Go down with the ship. I'd start him this week. Expectations for what I think he may do in this game, not great things.
Over under 19 points.
Probably under. I probably would put him anywhere
Ooh.
between 16 and 18.
It's pretty much what he's done the first couple weeks of the season.
Yeah, so it's not going to be a big blow up. I hate Thursday night football games for fantasy. If I find a guy on Thursday night football, unless they're an absolute friggin' bona fide stud, I
David
usually
Montgomery
try to move
Thursday Night Football last week,
34 fantasy points, I guess. But it's just so tough to project out what's going to happen. It could either be like a soup.
Yeah,
you
they
could
are
get
usually
David
wild card games.
You could get David Montgomery getting 34, or it could just be a poop game. But they tend to get worse as the season goes along. But yeah, so Fields I would start. I agree with Rick. Let's move to the running back position. We got Roschon Johnson and Khalil Herbert for this game. Washington's front seven is real freaking good. And they've been real freaking good for a little while. They so far this year have given up 17.5 fantasy points to the running back position. So it's not like they are elite at stopping the run like they were last year so far this year. That could just be an anomaly.
They did again play some like the Eagles. I think it doesn't help that number.
Yeah, so
the Bills the week before who were up by like 30 points, so they ran the ball a lot.
Mm-hmm. So I kind of look at this scenario and I'm like, I don't feel good about Herbert or Roschon Johnson specifically after how they've looked to start the season. They put up some okay, either one of them have put up some okay fantasy performances. But I just, against Washington, I'm not like super hyped to start either one of these guys on a Thursday night.
I'm not either. And the thing is, like, the first 3 weeks, Roschon Johnson was more efficient than Herbert. And then going into this week, there was like that late report late in the week saying like Roschon Johnson is going to get even more work, has the opportunity to take over the backfield.
Yep.
And then Khalil Herbert dominates and has 22 touches to Johnson's 6.
Yeah.
So like the backfield to me just feels like a wild card. Herbert's probably the guy you want to start between the two, especially after last week. Feels like he's back to being the guy in that backfield. But I think it could change. Like if Johnson rips off a couple big runs, they're going to ride with Johnson. And this offense isn't good enough to support 2 good running backs, like Miami or some other teams right now using multiple backs. So
yeah.
I'm probably staying away from the running back room if you have to, because bye weeks though, I'm okay with starting Herbert, but I don't know.
Have to. Yeah, but I'm with Rick. I'm out.
Yeah.
Wide receiver, everyone else besides DJ Moore can sit their butts on the pine. DJ Moore, though, after a 27-point game, it makes it like he's actually been, for the most part, I think I told Rick before the show, he's wide receiver 14 on the year in PPR. Yep. And like he had a 27-point game after week 1 where he had 2 targets, 2 catches for 25 yards. He's had 16, 13, and 27. So he's actually been relatively decent for fantasy football. And it's almost like, at this point, like if you're saying to start Fields, you probably should say to start DJ Moore. And
100%.
With no one else really there to catch the ball besides maybe Cole Kmet, I think DJ Moore comes in as a guy that can, and will get 7 to 9 targets. And if that happens, you're just hoping that, hey, a touchdown catch comes flying his way for the 3rd straight week. So I like it as a game this week, but I'm not like enamored by the start.
Yeah, but if he's kind of like Fields, if you have more, you drafted him probably like the 4th, 5th round.
Yeah.
You got to probably start him, and he hasn't been bad this year. Like
Washington,
he's had some really sketchy moments. Week 1 was awful. Mm-hmm. Week 3, he had like 2 fantasy points to the last like 3 minutes of the game.
Yeah.
But then this week he went out and had a great game against Denver,
for sure,
who is a struggling defense, but it's not like Washington's defense is great either. So I'm starting DJ Moore, and I'm feeling pretty decent about it. But you're right, after that, it gets nowhere. Claypool is done.
Mm-hmm.
He's a healthy scratch again this week. Mooney's the second guy, and he's had, 9 points this week? So, like, maybe in a super deep league where you need to start 3 flex guys and you have bye weeks, then fine. But he's not someone I'd love to start.
Commanders do give up 36.7 points per game a week.
It could be a sneaky Mooney week. But in order for that to happen, Fields needs to have another big game, and I just don't trust that.
Yeah, for sure. So I would expect DJ Moore to do good things this week, but no one else. Like I said, Thursday night football, so hold your beers before just saying, DJ Moore's going to break the league.
Right.
On Thursday.
Unless he does.
And then you got Cole Kmet, who just came off a haunt to trot 27-point performance. I don't know.
He's like a poor man's Kittle.
Yeah, because one week
he did this last year too. He had like a bunch of bad games, and he'd get like 20-something points.
With that said,
and then a bunch of bad games.
Commanders have 3.7 fantasy points given up per game on the season. They are the toughest defense for tight ends.
Plus, he's coming off such a monster game.
Yeah,
I feel like he's gonna come back down.
Yeah, I wouldn't start him this week. I'm gonna go out all in.
I probably wouldn't either, but he is the tight end 3 right now in the season.
But like you said, you just called him Kittle, so he's going to get 1 point this week.
Yeah, that's true. I wouldn't start him with confidence. I'll say that. But at the tight end position, like if you don't have Andrews or Kelsey or Hawk, or Kittle, I guess, any of those like top guys, like who the hell cares?
Yeah, for real. All right, so
you might as well take a swing for the fence.
There's your Bears. Let's move on and talk about the Washington Commanders, and there's going to be a heck of a lot less startable assets on,
is there?
Or is
against
there
against the Bears?
Is there? All right. So Sam Howell is the quarterback for the Commanders, and Sam has actually had a couple of okay games so far this year. Rick was hot to trot at the draft, so now he gets to talk about him. I'll give him 2 seconds in a second. But he's had 17. Actually, these numbers are skewed, but somewhere around 16 points, somewhere around 23, 22 points, and then 4, and then 20. So he's been okay for fantasy football at times. He does have this easy matchup against Chicago, but when I'm talking about streaming quarterbacks, my biggest concern is Thursday night football, because that tends to not be a high-scoring game. And it's week 5, so they might have more fresh legs and be able to score more points. But typically I try to stay away from streaming options that are on Thursday night at the quarterback position, just because I don't trust that there's going to be an elite, really good game from a quarterback unless they're a high-level guy. So I don't know that I would play Sam Howell this week, but if you it's one of those situations where if you desperately needed a play this week at quarterback, I wouldn't judge you for playing Sam Howell.
So looking at the week 5 buys, Seahawks would be Geno. You're probably not relying on that.
Mm-hmm.
Buccaneers, Baker Mayfield. You're probably not relying on that. But Chargers are on a bye this week, so no Justin Herbert.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have Herbert, and the other team is the Browns. So Deshaun Watson, if you're relying on Deshaun Watson, so if you have one of those guys and you need a stream, I don't think Howell's bad. You're right. The Thursday night scares me. It does. But outside of the Bills game, he has been very streamable this year.
Yeah.
And he has a top 3 matchup in the Bears. So like if you're ever going to stream him, this is the perfect matchup to do it. So I would do it. I would bite the bullet on the Thursday night. That is the biggest concern, though. You are right. But I like the matchup too much. It's also at home. The Bears have just been absolute garbage on defense.
Hot cannon.
And Howell has that rushing upside too. So it's like even if he kind of sucks, he might have some scrappy rushes in there that gets him up to like 16, 17 points.
Yeah, those are all fair arguments. Like I said, I don't judge you if you start him this week because it is an easy matchup.
Yeah.
The Bears just give up a lot of points to the quarterback position and really every other position. So let's talk about the running backs. I dropped Antonio Gibson in my league. Don't know what he did this week.
He had 3 points.
He had 3 points, so he's still
he's
still caca. Antonio Gibson's only upside in fantasy football for the remainder of this season is if Brian Robinson gets hurt. That's about all he has. So he's strictly a handcuff at this point if you have B-Rob. Brian Robinson has had a lot of really good games this year. He is going up against Chicago, and if you have him, you probably 30 points a game to the running back position. And if Antonio Gibson takes 3 of those, that leaves 27 for Brian Robinson. I don't know what this game means for Brian Robinson in terms of fantasy points. Like I don't know.
He's a top 7 running back right now.
He's top 7. Season. He had 13, 28, then 7 and 13, and he's going up against a good matchup. So anywhere between I want to say 13 to 17 is probably where I anticipate that he ends up fantasy point wise for me specifically. So I think he's a good start this week. You're probably rolling him out in your lineup on a week to week basis, especially if he's the RB7 on the season. So I'd start him this week against Chicago, but I don't expect him to have an earth shattering game.
Yeah, it's a little gross with because we've always liked Gibson more, and I still think Gibson is he's more explosive running back. But with the fumbles, and he's kind of in the doghouse, it's clear they like Robinson more, and he's the workhorse. So if you're a workhorse running back and you're going against the Bears, he's a must-start for me. He's had some good weeks. He's the goal line back, too. Doesn't this feel like a game, for both? Let's say it's the gross Thursday that you're saying. That's a low scoring kind of just gross game.
Yeah.
Doesn't it feel like there's no touchdown passes, but Brian Robinson gets 2 rushing touchdowns and that's it?
Yes, for sure. Yep.
So that's why I'd be in on Robinson. I think he's probably going to get a goal line touchdown, and he'll be good. He's honestly at this point he's probably startable pretty much week to week unless he gets a really bad matchup because he is a borderline workhorse right now for the Commanders. So even though he doesn't get a lot of passing work, he's getting a lot of carries on the ground and he's getting all the goal line work. So he's kind of like David Montgomery. So in a good matchup, he's a must start.
So the receiving options for Washington, like Curtis Samuel, Jahan Dotson, Terry McLaurin, all guys that have kind of been utilized in this backfield. Jahan Dotson has been kind of like a sailing ship. He's been not great. 9.54, and then he had 12 this week, 9 targets. He did drop in snap percentage this week, so I don't know what's going to happen with him, but I wouldn't take a risk and start him this week, and I would do the same for Curtis Samuel. I'd probably sit him. So the real guy is Terry McLaurin. Now I have a funny situation for this because somebody in the home league has Terry McLaurin, and they sat him this week because they were sick and tired of his games because apparently he hasn't been good.
He hasn't even been that bad.
Yeah, so they were like, I'm sick of this crap, and they sat him. And
he had 22.
He had 22. So yeah, he kind of got screwed on that one. I always say start your studs. I consider Terry McLaurin one of the better wide receivers in the NFL. And especially for this game against Chicago. If you anticipate that Sam Howell's going to be okay, then you should anticipate that Terry McLaurin's going to be okay. I'd roll Terry McLaurin out in my lineup this week against Chicago.
Yeah, McLaurin's a must start. You know my feelings. I've always liked Terry McLaurin. I think he's a stud. He's also going against the Bears, who, as we've talked about, probably the worst defense in the NFL, at least bottom 3. Mm-hmm. So I would expect McLaurin to go off this week.
Yeah.
He's probably going to be ranked in my top 15 receivers for the week.
For sure.
On Fantasy Pros. So he's a must start. And then when it comes to the other guys, Dotson to me is kind of dead which sucks because Matt Harmon, right? He does the reception perception. You're a big fan of his. Says that like Dotson is like really, really good. He just doesn't get the ball. So that's kind of sad to see. And I like Dotson too. I liked him in college, but it's just like he doesn't. The preseason hype was there, but when McLaurin came back, McLaurin has just taken it all away.
Yeah,
McLaurin is the guy.
Yeah.
Which is understandable.
I think your quarterback is Sam Howell. Like, how much? Like, do you think?
And your quarterback Sam Howell? It's not like he's
he's not going to carry. He's not going to carry two superstar wide receivers here. So
he's not. So Dotson's kind of dead. I think, barring McLaurin injury, which I don't root for. But and then Curtis Samuel was interesting. I think he actually has a more startable value than Dotson. If I had to start one, because it is a great matchup, and he's had a couple good weeks, and they use him in multiple ways. They use him like he's Debo, like they use him on the ground. They use him for play action. They have certain designed plays for Curtis Samuel, and they did this last year too. So I don't know why I didn't buy in as much, but I bought into the Dotson hype a little bit too much. But Curtis Samuel has some set plays, so he could have a decent week against the Bears. I'm not going out of my way to start him, but if you need a play, I don't think he's awful.
Okay, all right, and then Logan Thomas against the Chicago Bears. He's had some mid performances. I think he's a good snatch and play if you need a tight end. Yeah. But I'm not excited about it. Like I said, Thursday Night Football, man. I just the streaming options on Thursday night, whether it's tight end or quarterback, really kick me in the lower extremities.
Yeah, I agree, and I think I brought him up on our waiver show on Tuesday, that he could be a good streaming option and a good plug and play. And I still think that way, but it's gross. It's very gross.
Very gross. And I was going to throw out the stat line here for what the Bears do against tight ends. 13 points a game. 8 points a game to the tight end position. So they're mid. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting situation. Should be a weird game. Not going to lie, but I'll be watching.
I don't really know what to expect out of it.
44.5 points.
That seems about 24-20. That feels about right.
Yeah, it feels about right. All right, who you got? Who you got winning? We got some splitsies here.
My head definitely says Commanders. My heart says the Bears. Should I pick with my head or my heart? I'm 4-0. I'm okay with taking a loss. I'll take the Bears.
I'm going to take the Bears too.
Oh. Bro, now's your chance to catch up in the standings.
It really is, but I think the Bears are going to win. I think they'll pull this one off.
Okay.
Either that or they'll get freaking smoked.
I think the Commanders they have a better defense. They're much better coached. And that's about it. But that's still two pretty big things.
Yeah.
But my heart says the Bears, so go Bears.
Let's go Bears. I like their uniforms.
Yeah, I like Fields and I like the jerseys.
All right, there you go. Hopefully you enjoyed the show. Thursday Night Football preview, gross game. Hopefully there's some fantasy watching happening in this game because I need to see Justin Fields go off.
Yeah, I watched it for the fantasy.
Hopefully you enjoy this football game. See you later, guys.
See ya.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Champions Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on iTunes and YouTube and follow us on Twitter @TheFFChamps.